Hi and welcome to another episode of the Nordic Growth Podcast. This is the podcast where we meet with exciting guests and interesting people who actually have. It's actually going to be a lot of different topics, but it's going to be focusing on growth. It's going to be focusing on how to build companies and the learnings and key takeaways. Today, I have. We actually used to work together, Hope, you and I, in the beginning when you started to use HubSpot, basically one of our first clients, I think, like at least one of the 5 first clients. And you've been on a journey. You've 10x'd basically your let's say you went from 30 million in ARR to 300 million. In a period of time. So yeah. I love 10x. I love working smart and working efficiently. So the focus today is going to be basically picking your brain and hopefully give the listeners and the viewers kind of a playbook and what not to do and the mistakes you made and to help other companies growing not to make the same mistakes. But before we jump in, I'm going to hand over to you and give you a couple of minutes to introduce yourself for the ones who might not know who you are, your role and the company Catalyst One you represent, and then we're basically going to jump into the podcast.
Great. Yes, so at least I will try and share my experiences. I'm not sure if it's a playbook, but at least it's my personal experience.
Yeah.
So as you said, my name is Hope. I'm a passionate marketer. I love working with marketing, people, technology, and growth. And I've been in technology companies more or less my whole career, building and developing and growing. Some of the companies have been early stage growth. Others have been more advanced in their growth journey. But yeah, it's been more or less about growth the whole way. And I've almost stopped counting, but for the almost past 20 years, I've been in the SaaS industry, almost before it was called SaaS.
Yeah.
So that's been a really, really fun journey to be on. And now I'm at Catalyst One. And that's where we met first, Oliver.
Yep.
So I started in Catalyst One, came in there in 2016, which was kind of the early stages of growth in Catalyst One, I would say. It's the very beginning of the journey that we've been seeing from here. And for those of you who don't know Catalyst One, we're a SaaS company. We're the leading Nordic provider of HCM solutions, human capital management solutions, meaning that we provide software and tools for HR and IT and managers to automate processes and to secure and maintain their employee data and follow up their employees so they can succeed with their business goals, pretty much. Yeah, and I just wanted to mention that you said it, Oliver, that we just started out with HubSpot, which was really kind of the very beginning of our inbound marketing and content marketing journey in Catalyst One, and we've kind of developed from there.
It's been a couple of years. It's been many years. We onboarded as a HubSpot partner in 2014, I think. So it's 11 years and counting for us as well. What have you seen like when you started to like there was HubSpot, we helped you to implement the system, the tool and the processes around it. And then you kind of took over by yourselves, which you are doing still tremendously well. What were the like when you got the role, you got into a Catalyst One. We onboarded you in HubSpot. Everything was in place. What like your thoughts in like this is the way we're going to use this is the way we're going to grow, and what actually happened? Do you have any like for the ones listening who are implementing HubSpot and doing the journey by themselves? Do you have any key takeaways? This is what you need to think about. And these are things I thought were going to happen and that did not happen. Like, let's start there. Like, quick takeaways. When you go back to 2016, like, what are you thinking today, many years after?
Yeah, I think the first thing is that it never turns out the way you think it's going to be.
Yeah, that is true.
So you start out with a playbook and you think that you have to map out all the little details. But I think my recommendation would to maybe, learn more as you go and see where it takes you. We've gone from implementing HubSpot, focusing only on a fairly simple CRM and marketing automation. We're also hosting our website in HubSpot, so it's a very close, lovely ecosystem for the go-to-market toolbox. And the way we've developed it over time is that we've onboarded more and more parts of the organization into HubSpot, so that we can all work with one source of truth when it comes to customer insights. So that has really been a journey for us, and it's not done overnight. So to have kind of the one master data place to go to for everything customer insights.
And let's stay with the data. I think this is super relevant. The way when we talk to new potential clients and ones who've been using HubSpot but really can't maximize the tool in the most efficient and the best way, I always say exactly as you, and this is the way HubSpot put it: one source of truth, 360 customer journey, everything in one place. Before you kind of understood and landed in the fact that you needed to do this to get, like, what would it look like? What did it look like before? Like, did you have different tools and systems? Well, tell us about the challenges and what made you actually decide we need to have everything in one place.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of having a very scattered system landscape. You have one tool for sales and marketing, you have another tool for customer success, finance, they have their own systems. And for a while, none of these systems really talk to each other. So at some point, we took a look at this and thought, well, this is not really working out, because we don't have that complete overview of the whole customer journey. And we don't have that single source of truth, which makes it really, really hard to align, across the different parts of our company. So we started bringing the customer organization into HubSpot, working on processes and how they will work with data in HubSpot and not their own tool. We brought finance into the loop. We have managed to now integrate both our licensing system, the system that we use for invoicing. So everything is now connected. So even though not everything is in HubSpot, everything is connected through integration. So we have a coherent flow of data.
And did you do this in any sequential way? Like, you started with marketing, you added which part of the hubs, now that we're talking HubSpot, like which part did you add in which sequence and why did you do it that way? And do you have any learnings on how to think about that? If you start with, for example, some companies start with Sales Hub, which is the CRM, that's sales part in HubSpot, and others start with marketing. We actually have a few nowadays who do sales and customer success, like Service Hub, and then they add marketing. In which sequence did you do it, and what would you recommend a company in your size or any growing company?
Yeah, we started with a classic go-to-market point of view. So Sales Hub and marketing, and then we've onboarded the customer organization, so customer success. We've also onboarded support, so they have insights that run across the tools that we use in our support organization, that we also have data flowing between HubSpot and those. Finance, I already mentioned, came next. So it's been sequential, and it's a huge task. So you can't do everything at once, because we're not only talking systems here. We're talking people, and people need to get used to working differently. And that's not done overnight. So we need to work through the routines and the processes and what makes sense for every single part of the organization to get what they need.
So and that's very, very important, and I totally agree with you. Even though you can invest in a platform like HubSpot to do everything, it's not a good idea to do everything at once, as you said, because it's very easy to focus on the tools and the systems and say that now we've invested in a pretty cool system, a tool, and everything is going to be okay. The thing is, as you just mentioned, people and processes. Like, people are part of this. People don't like change. People don't want to put into a box and do stuff somebody else told them to do. And so let's give us a bit of background story in terms of how do we get people and focus on the marketing organization, like that's your organization. How do we get marketing people to adjust and to accept the fact they're going to be part of a process and a growth engine? Like, do you have what's your experience there? Like, did you make any big mistakes in the beginning? You thought this was the way to do it, and then you eventually learned something. What about people and processes and the way you work together?
Yeah, I mean, when we started out, we were pretty much a classic kind of lead generating marketing organization. And we've just, started to using this new tool, HubSpot, and had great expectations and hopes to what that would mean for us. And it really was good because it really started that journey, as I mentioned, about using the inbound methodology, working more strategically with content marketing, which has really, really been working out super well for us, I must say. But we had to make sure that we initiated a tighter collaboration with sales for once. That was super important, and that's something that we continuously work with until today, which is really important. But also we had to kind of make that transition from being a lead generating organization to being a more strategic go-to-market focus, right? So not just hand to mouth, do we have enough leads in the pipeline right now, but to think more long-term, to have a more strategic approach to how we worked, how we want to approach the market, how we want to approach our target group. So I would say to come in and take that step back and look at, okay, so who's in our ICP? Who are the personas that we're talking to? And how do we approach them? What kind of pain points is it that they would like us to help them solve? Because no one wants to be pushed, a product that they don't necessarily understand what they would need it for. And especially back in the days, still a little bit of an immature HCM market in the Nordics. I mean, we work towards the mid-market, which is like a few hundred employees to a few thousand employees, typical companies. And it takes time to kind of make an impact in the market, to build a brand, to have a voice, to build trust. Because no one wants to buy anything that's an investment of maybe 10, 15 years into the future that will impact every single one of their employees if they don't trust who they're buying from, right?
No, I totally agree with that. It's all about trust, and from 2016 and until today, this has become even more, in my opinion, even more important. If you don't trust companies and specifically individuals working at those companies, it's going to be super hard. everything is so transparent today. We have the rise of AI, which gives us even more tools and opportunities to find out more about companies we're going to work with or we don't want to work with. In terms of lead gen and brand and qualified leads and everything everybody talks about, how has that changed from 2016 until today? What would the lead gen or go-to-market strategy look like then, and how have you adjusted to the new way of communicating, basically?
And I think that's one of the really tough ones, Oliver. I think we still use I would say kind of a classic inbound methodology. We use the typical KPIs that you would recognize in the inbound marketing funnel. But what's changed is how we qualify those leads and MQLs, and how much more tightly we work with sales to do that, to have an understanding of what actually qualifies a lead and what doesn't, to ensure that we are not a machine that creates leads and creates attention in the market, and then at some point down the road it stops. I think one of the kind of tricks that we've used, I don't know if I call it a trick, but at least a tool, is that we use the number of new deals, sales deals, that we create in HubSpot, which is really a sales KPI. But for many years now, we have also used that as a marketing KPI. So that's really what drives everything that we do from a new sales perspective, is kind of, okay, so how many new deals do we need to create and fill the pipeline with together with sales to be able to achieve our goals?
It's exactly, because no one in the sales department will open a new deal and commit to this if it's not a qualified potential opportunity. So that's a really good KPI, because this aligns the different departments. Do you still use BDRs, SDRs, like digital sales resources, and how has that changed since you started doing this?
Very good question, because that has been a journey for us.
Yeah.
So we started out without any BDRs or SDRs, and then we tested it out having the SDRs in sales. Then we tested out having SDRs in marketing. Then we went back to not having any SDRs at all, because it's really hard to succeed. And I think the one thing that made it challenging was that, for one, we deal with personas who are in the C-suite. And it's very hard to be able to have a meaningful conversation with C-suite profiles without having very in-depth knowledge about their pain points, the markets they're in, our product offering. So it needs to be quite a senior conversation to get them on board, spending time with us on that conversation. So that was one thing. Another thing is that we didn't really have the size to create a team that could support each other, because it's a tough job being an SDR or a BDR. So that was kind of the two things that we couldn't really find a good answer to. However, what we have done is that we have transitioned from being a marketing organization that's gone from local marketing, with local marketing managers, generalists who kind of own their own geography. And then we transitioned over to central marketing, because I felt it was really important to build very strong core expertise in each of the marketing disciplines. And I'm a true believer in building strong in-house teams. So And when we did do that shift from local to central marketing, we did that knowing that it could be a risk of creating a distance between marketing and the local sales teams, which happened, unfortunately. Yeah. Even though we tried to avoid it, we did see that we didn't quite manage to keep that closeness to sales.
Why do you think? Why did that happen?
Yeah, I think it's because when you move into a central organization, you get absorbed into your dedicated role more than being as close to sales as you used to. I think perhaps it's a journey that you have to kind of work through to build a strong marketing organization. But obviously it's not good to kind of drift away from sales. So what we've done is that over the past couple of years, we have added another layer to marketing. So in addition to the central team, we've also built a regional marketing team, which is a team where we focus on account-based marketing and local events. So we have ABM specialists now working super closely with the local sales team. So I think they more or less consider themselves part of sales, which is great.
Yeah.
And that has really closed that gap between marketing and sales. It's working really well.
This is very interesting because you hear from all kind of companies and parts of the industry about account-based marketing and then you have sales and marketing and revenue team. I'm talking a lot about, for the last couple of years, a lot about revenue teams and the fact that you need to have people who are good at specific things working together and setting up campaigns and reaching clients. I really love that the ABM specialists, and that's kind of like you said, they're almost part of the sales team. Have you also thought about, are you also thinking about revenue teams, or you still have sales and marketing, or do you call it something else? Like, do you call them ABM teams? What would be your name?
No, we still call ourselves marketing and sales. So okay. we don't have revenue teams per se. But in a way, it works a little bit like that in the way we work from day to day. So we have most of the central team is now also centrally located, which wasn't really a very strategic move from the start. Because I'm used to working with distributed teams. I'm very comfortable, having teams scattered around in different locations. But for the central team, over the years, we've moved to having the most of the roles, at least, in one office, which makes communication easier. But the ABM specialists, they sit out with. In each location, they sit with the sales teams.
Tell me a bit more about the ABM specialists. What kind of role descriptions do they have? What do they do on a daily basis? How do they contribute to the overall revenue and retention of and anti-churn and everything? Like, what are their roles? I'm super interested in listening a bit more about what they do basically on a daily basis.
Yeah, so they are. Oh, pardon me.
That's fine.
So, basically, they are only focused on new sales. So they don't address, at least for now, the whole customer life cycle, but only until we actually sign them and get them on board. So a profile would typically be a strong digital marketeer who's very sales oriented, very commercial, who's very target oriented, who's driven by having the same kind of targets as a sales organization does. And who likes digging into the details, I would say. Yeah. Who likes looking at data, who likes, dissecting the target group and help sales in segmenting the database into, tier 1 accounts and tier 2 and tier 3, and discuss with them how to approach these different segments in different ways. So in essence, what we've done is that we've each of our sales executives, they have a number of tier 1 accounts who get, the VIP treatment. Yeah. Who we really know really well, and we tailor messaging to. And then we have a larger group per sales executive in tier 2, who also receive kind of targeted campaigns, but not as tailored as tier 1. And then in tier 3 is kind of all the rest of the accounts in our ICP.
And the tier 3, would they be almost fully automated?
Yes, so they would typically be targeted by our inbound marketing machine. And that's the machine that, keeps working for you day in and day out. That's kind of the fundamental part of our inbound machine, and also to a certain extent, how we work on our branding, because that's also where we distribute our thought leadership content.
What would you say is the difference between brand and lead gen?
Well, it's a good question, because what we see is that quite a lot of our thought leadership content, which we also very much use for branding, that's how we build our brand, by sharing knowledge and, being visible out in the market, is also what generates the first touch leads. So it really goes hand in hand. We do very, very little of what you would call pure branding. So pretty much everything we do is lead generating.
That's a good question answer. That's the way I think about it as well, because it's getting harder to differentiate between brand and lead gen.
Great minds think alike, Oliver.
They do. And also, I find it harder to differentiate between marketing and sales as well. And for every single month and year we move into the future, it all becomes like, I tend to say that a good marketer, and you mentioned that for your ABM roles, good marketer has a commercial focus. It's a marketer, and marketing has a lot to do with brand, has a lot to do with feelings, making people feel and experience things, to make a decision, to get to know your brand, to trust your brand. Good salespeople understand that marketing is really the heart of getting clients today. In this digital, moving more and more into AI, people are like, they're going to be digital, they're going to find answers to their questions. You need to be there. And I also have in terms of advertising, we can talk about that as well. I'm seeing that the way we used to do Google ads and LinkedIn ads, it's not as efficient anymore. I would recommend to use that to get your brand out there, and maybe not track the metrics as we did in 2016. Yeah. However, if I have a podcast like this one and I want people to know about the podcast, I'm totally fine to know that people can see that there is a podcast. How would I be able to track how many deals I've closed because somebody listened to this episode? Pretty much impossible in many cases. But if we know that we're doing good things, like we're doing, in your case, you're doing ABM campaigns, you're building the brand, and 1 or 2 quarters down the line, your revenue increases, your churn decreases. Apparently something, you were doing stuff really good a couple of quarters before. So what do you think about that? Because when inbound marketing was a thing, when it started, like when you onboarded with HubSpot, it was all about metrics and tracking and conversion. I had so many discussions with marketing managers, CMOs, where they were pushing, like, we had 500 leads and the salespeople are not closing anyone. They're so bad at selling. We've done our part and they're not doing their part. It was kind of it was going from sales has all the power to marketing has the metrics. You're not closing what we're giving you, and obviously, as we know, both of us, and probably the ones listening as well, the leads were not bad and good enough because we hadn't defined the quality of them. So what's your thought about the metrics we used then, the way we work with sales and marketing, and what we're doing today? What would be the main, if somebody started today?
Yeah, I think that's a really tough one, because I mean, my instinct really wants that everything can be measured and counted.
Of course, I love data. I'm the same, but like, is that actually what reality looks like in 2025?
No, I think you're right, because it makes it difficult, because people tend to gravitate now more and more towards channels that are more difficult to measure, right?
Exactly.
And that's kind of a tough one, because I mean, we're all on a tight budget, right? And you want to spend your kroner or your pound or your euro the best way you can.
Yeah.
So you really kind of want those insights, like, okay, so where is it I get the most bang for my buck, right? But I think we more and more also, and we're not moving away from being data-driven. I think we're moving more and more towards being data-driven in some areas. But we also, to a certain extent, have to trust our, our gut feeling when it comes to, okay, so we see that is working, right? Yeah. And we have to create content and communicate in a way that brings value to those who are listening. And I think the core of that is knowing who's listening, or at least who you want to listen. Yeah. So you need to know your audience really, really well, because if not, then you will end up with, poor leads again in your pipeline.
Exactly. And so let's say that you're putting together an ABM campaign, or let's say a campaign. What would that look like? Let's say that you have a list of 25 enterprise companies. You wanna do business with those logos, those companies. What would what would the process look like? Who would be involved from sales and marketing? And would you do internal prep meetings? Would you define the results and the KPIs? Shortly, like, what would that process look like to launch an ABM campaign? Let's say that.
Yeah, and that's what happens. That magic happens between the ABM specialist and sales, typically.
Okay.
They sit down, they define the target groups, they discuss, if it's sliced or diced per industry or per size or per something else. But some similarities in a group of accounts. And then there's research time. You have to find out, so what's their pain points? What does the market look like for them? Are there any, we're in a time now where geopolitics are just going haywire, right? So is this a target group that is in a way more affected than other by things that goes on, externally in the world? You need to know these things. You need to try and understand. So, what are their worries? What's keeping them up at night? And how can we help?
Who's doing the research?
It's a combination between the sales executive and the ABM specialist.
In which to which extent do you use AI to do some of the research and potentially even the reach out, like ChatGPT or similar tools? Breeze, which is built into HubSpot, like, are you using AI? I guess you are. And to which extent do you have any this is a good way to use AI, this is a bad way to use AI? For the ones listening who are maybe just embarking on the journey you've already done, what would be the key insights to give them in terms of like launching an ABM campaign? We have AI. In which way should we maximize it or not?
Yeah. So I mean, obviously this is on everyone's agenda these days.
Of course.
How you can maximize the potential in not just AI but tools in general to work smarter.
Of course.
And I think when it comes to AI, I think there's so many tools out there for marketing that you can't just begin and work your way through, but rather, okay, look at what is it that we spend a lot of time on that could potentially be automated or at least made easier. And I think for one, just using ChatGPT, we have a corporate account, so we can use that safely. Is a very, very good tool for research, for suggestions for content, for drafts, for just insight gathering, to give you frameworks more quickly. I think to get you started is fantastic for that. In every way, I would say. What we've also done is that we've built a bot that we've trained on our tone of voice, so it's quicker and easier to create content in our tone of voice as a first draft, which is a huge help for marketing. But also, we haven't rolled it out in the rest of the organization yet, but I'm thinking that it will also be a great tool for the rest of the organization, because it's not only marketing who creates content anymore. Content is democratized, so we have to help them.
It is, and it's a funny thing with content, because we used to complain that people posting things on LinkedIn, there were misspellings, there were bad grammar, and nowadays people are complaining because it's too good grammar, because it's ChatGPT and we have the dashes. People find out that this is AI, this is so bad, and I'm like, is it really bad that people are now communicating with the help of systems and tools, but in a correct grammar, and as long as you use your own tone of voice and you add stuff and you use the tools to your advantage, I think it's a good thing. But people are like, I actually had a podcast with, you might know Marcus Sheridan. So he's one of the pioneers in content marketing. He said that people go through, I think it was 4 transitions when new tools and technologies emerge. First one is that they say, this is not for me. I'm a marketer, I'm a content producer. I do not use robots and AI. This is my work. I'm an artist. Like, I'm not using this. Then they start heckling people and making fun of people using tools because, hey, you don't know how to write, so you're doing this, and they're having a laughing time. Third one is where they start to understand and getting a kind of panicked because they understand that I should be using AI to help me in my role, to make me even better. And then the fourth one is when they understand they lost the race and they're being replaced.
Exactly,
I think those 4 steps are really interesting. And many companies today, my experience is that they're basically maybe in phase 2 or 3, but like, and also many of them, obviously, this is not for me. I don't know how I should use this. So, and the segue from what I just said into my next question would be, your role as a SVP marketing or CMO, how has that changed from 2016 until today? So if somebody embarked today, let's say somebody recruits me as a CMO for a company, in which way has that role changed from 2016?
Quite a lot, but can I just comment on the AI?
Yes.
Because I find that super interesting, because I'm a bit torn on that one.
Okay.
Because I think content creation with AI is fantastic up until a certain point. Because going back to the trust and building relationships with your audience, you need to show who you are. So I maybe I'm old-fashioned, I don't know, but I do think that there's a little bit of a human touch needed to. AI can take you to a certain point, and then you have to refine it, to make it your own, to make sure that it really communicates who you are as a brand, that you're able to articulate your knowledge and your insights. So I think my hunch is that will become even more valuable going forward, that you have that knowledge and you share that knowledge and you show your customers and your audience and your market that your expertise is built on being present in the market and not just through being great at prompting.
Exactly. And this is what happened before AI became a thing, like maybe 2-3 years ago. Like when salespeople are sending automated emails, they use tools and they kind of mass email people with the same message, no personality at all, and then they eventually get some meetings, but they burn like 80% of the market because it's so automated and everybody knows it. And I always say this, just because there is a tool or a technology, that doesn't mean that you have to use it full out 100%. What you're saying, I totally agree with also, that use it to your advantage, but we can't use the human touch, and that goes for every single tool we're using. We should use AI, ChatGPT, image generation, like AIs, whatever it might be, to an extent, but not all the way. Because if we lose the tonality and the brand, who we are, it's all going to be. It's even more important today to stand out from the crowd than it's been before. It's
also going to be very generic.
Everybody's going to be a perfect writer. Everybody's going to do perfect like writing. It's going to be super professional, really good.
And I think that's really interesting, because when people spot AI generated text, it's because it's perfect. It's not flawed.
Exactly.
Us people, we are flawed.
Exactly. No, that is true. And when I'm in philosophical discussions, maybe with a glass of wine or two with my friends, this is what I say. I say that what's going to make us survive as a human race is that we are not perfect. We are illogical. We are not making decisions based on data and numbers all the time. We are very emotionally driven. We make bad decisions because we feel something. And AI will never do that. And AI will actually, if you put a sales AI and a purchasing manager AI, they will close the best potential deal ever. And you, as a salesperson, you will never hear a client say, I love everything you did, but it doesn't feel good. And AI doesn't do that. And we can use this to our advantage when we're communicating as well. Like misspelling words just because we can misspell words, and it's going to be, oh, this is kind of like, this is taking it to the extreme. But I totally agree on what you're saying. It's going to be a superpower to be personal. And I think that, like, let's use copywriting. Say we have 10 copywriters. We have 8 of them being pretty standard. They're going to be replaced by AI every single day of the week. We have 2 of them who are really, really good at what they do. They're going to maximize AI, and they're going to run so much far ahead from the other 8, so they're never going to catch up to them. And those jobs might definitely be at risk. If you're a standard general person who doesn't want to stand out, you're going to lose your job. If you're kind of looking forward and seeing the opportunities in using these tools and this technology, you're going to be ahead of the pack. So sales, same thing. Even before AI became a thing, I've always said when I'm talking to sales teams and companies and organizations that we're going to need salespeople more than ever in the future, but we're not going to need as many. The ones who are going to be relevant are the ones who are going to be ahead. Yes, the best ones. And what do you think about that? Do you agree, or do you like, what's your take on that?
I think that that kind of is a good segue back to your question about what's changed with the CMO role, and I think what's changed with most leadership roles. I would say pointing to what you're saying now, people.
People, yeah.
I think being able to put together teams with the right people it's always been important, obviously, but it's going to be even more important going forward. To have the right people who understands the motivation, your ambitions, where you're going, who come to work and are super dedicated, not because they only have a skill, but because they understand what you want to achieve. Yeah.
And what's more important, though, is it like, do you want to have people who are really technology savvy, or people who know how to communicate, to build communities, to strengthen your brand? Or does it have to be a combination?
I think it needs to be a combination. Yeah, I really do think so. I think you need those relationship-focused people, because I truly believe that at least in our industry, people invest in technology that's going to be with them, and they're going to work with us for years and years and years. We have a span, like we say, that every new customer that we acquire, our goal is to keep them for at least 10 years. And that is definitely an important choice for the customer as well. So they have to choose not only technology, but people that they would like to work with, that they like to work with over a long period of time, that will support them on their own growth journey and where they want to move, which direction they want to move with their strategies. And you need people focus to do that, but obviously to be able to scale, you need the right tools, and you need that technology focus as well. You need to be tech savvy. I don't think you can just bury that and say, well, that's not me. I think we all need to be tech savvy.
What is one hard truth about growth that nobody talks about? Like, we're all talking about growing the companies and scaling the company. Everybody's happy, new revenue, new clients. We've been on a growth journey, 10x, whatever. What is the thing we never talk about? You've done this. You've gone from 30 to 300 million. Like, what are we missing here? Is it just a simple journey forward, or are there things we're not talking about that we maybe should in terms of growing a company? Challenges.
Yeah, I think one big challenge about growth is that you can look at it both from an internal and an external point of view. From an internal point of view, I think growth, it puts your flaws in the spotlight. So if something is not working, and you press on the accelerator to go faster, then it will be very visible what's not working. So you need to address that. Whether it's how you work as a team, if you work with the right channels, if it's your messaging, if it's your lack of having the right ICP, whatever it is, you need to address it. And the thing is that growth, from my experience, goes in waves. So once you've fixed it, you can't kind of say, okay, done. Then a period of time will pass, and then you have to do it again. So you always have to adapt to where you are on your growth journey.
And is there any kind of, is it when you've grown to a certain amount of, let's say, ARR or revenue, whatever it be, then it kind of stalls and then you go up to the next one? Or are there any signs that we've kind of reached the first growing part of the business and then we go down again, and then we need to, like, do you have any, can you remember then when we were 50 people or 200 people, or like this is when it started to be even more complicated, and then when we went through this we went up to the next tier or the next level? Do you have any insights on that?
Yeah, I don't think I can kind of hook it onto a certain number per se, but I think you get to a point where you, first of all, you feel the need for more structure, and because you're growing as a company, you're more people, internal comms changes. You can't just So there's a lot of, aspects of growing that you need to keep an eye on. But I would say that yes, you need structure, but make sure you don't get too structured.
That was my exact no. And it's if there was a playbook and a checklist everybody could follow, everybody would grow a company every single day. It's super easy, yes.
Yeah.
And what's easy in life is not what's no, exactly no. So again, like. If you would, let's say that we have somebody listening, a newly assigned CMO, a new company, and she or he is going to grow the company. What would you focus on for the first 90 days? A new CMO role, new company, focus on growth. What would be the first 90 days focus areas for that person from your perspective?
Yeah, I think there are at least three things. Maybe I'll come to think of a couple of extra, but at least three things. So the first one, you really need to nail your ICP, your ideal customer profile. So who are your customers? Who are you going to be the best of the best for? Because you can't do everything. You can't be perfect for everyone. So you have to ensure that, okay, we are going to target this group. It could be that we will deviate a little bit here or a little bit there. That's fine. But you have to be razor sharp on who you're perfect for. And then you have to understand the personas. So what are their challenges? What kind of troubles or, difficult situations are they in that they need help resolving? Because no one is in their market just to buy a tool. Everyone has it. We all have enough tools.
Yeah.
But we have problems that needs to be solved, right? So to be able to understand that and to be able to articulate, okay, that's interesting. Let me see if I can understand your challenges, and perhaps I have a solution for that. Then people will start listening. So that's two, I think. Yes, ICP and personas. And the third one is how you build that insight. Is to talk to the customers. Tag along in sales meetings, in conversations with existing customers, and try and understand. Okay, so what were their pain points? Why did they choose us? Perhaps even go visit someone who didn't choose you. And understand why they chose something else, or chose not to go for anything, because that's a reality that it's not either win or lose. In many cases, it's just a case that's gone away. They choose not to do anything.
Yeah. That's mostly the reason why we lose deals, is because it becomes too complicated for the client. They don't see the value, and they it's a decision fatigue. It's let's not do anything at all because we don't have time. So many other projects, we're not getting and internal stakeholder discussions on the customer side as well. Maybe two of them are ready to sign, and then you have one or two who are not in the game at all, and they don't understand why they should do this, and so it all falls through the cracks. Totally agree.
Yeah, and I think understanding this and reducing the barriers for the customers, it's really important.
Do you have internal sales and marketing meetings on an ongoing basis to discuss these things with clients and stuff? Yeah. Have you always had that, or was this kind of part of the growth journey?
Do you mean meetings with the sales?
Yeah,
no,
sales
with the
and marketing together. Yeah.
Yeah, we do actually. We have, with the ABM specialists, they obviously have discussions with sales every day because they pretty much sit with them. But we also have something that we call lunch and learns with sales. So those are quarterly lunches where we just, gather the teams and we have a loose agenda. But it's more or less about, trying to surface what's happening in the market, what are potential customers saying, what are their pain points. Marketing can kind of air ideas and discuss messaging and hear if that resonates well with sales experiences. So it's a really good way of just open up for discussion. And sometimes we have something very concrete that we want to discuss, and other times we just have a kind of a loose conversation.
And that's such a simple thing to do. You could have lunch and learn. You could have weekly meetings or quarterly, as you have. At least sometimes sit down and talk to one another. And so many companies are not doing this, and they still have the challenges we had in 2016, or they're not talking to one another because they don't understand. It's like a bad relationship. It's like your wife and you. I and my wife and myself, we have the same goals, but we don't know how to get there because we're talking about different things. So that's super relevant and really good advice.
And I think also that, and that's very much on the level where everyone are involved in the discussions. But I think also that my colleague in sales, who's SVP sales, we always make a point of having we always have joint go-to-market strategies. We align our goals. When we present for the board, we usually do it together. So I think it's a very important mindset that sales and marketing is one team, is a go-to-market effort here.
Did you used to have challenges from a marketing side to get the SVP sales to listen to you, like way back? No? That's good.
No.
Probably because we onboarded you. That's really and why is that? Because I would say that in 9 out of 10 cases, somewhere in the history, there were issues and friction between the departments. What did you do from the beginning?
Yeah, I think, I like most marketers, I have previous experiences where that unfortunately has been the case, where there's finger pointing and you did this and you did that, and we don't reach our goal, so whose fault is it? Fortunately, my colleague Trond and I, we started almost at the same time, so we've kind of been pulling this cart together and been on this growth journey together from way back in 2016 or early 17. So I think that really helps. We were onboarded at the same stage of our growth journey. We had the same ambitions and the same understanding of where we want to go, which is really important. Obviously, that is not always the case. People come and go, as we all know. So I think just really to bond with your counterpart in sales and understand that marketing and sales is just two sides of the same coin.
Exactly.
And it's marketing is just a little bit earlier in the sales process. Because I definitely believe that's exactly how it is. We're all in sales.
Yeah. Okay, before we wrap up, it's been a really interesting and very insightful discussion. So thank you for that. I have if you would go back to 2016 and you could choose one thing to do that differently, what would that be? And the second question is, if you would give the listeners one key takeaway to implement tomorrow in the role of a CMO, for example, responsible for growth, what would that be? So if you go back, what would you do differently? And then what would you give the listeners and the viewers moving forward?
Yeah, I think going back, and hindsight is always 2020, so it's so easy to say if I did that. But I think to onboard more of the teams into HubSpot or any other core tool that you're using in your go-to-market motions, if you have that single source of truth, it's just so much easier to work and to be aligned. And now, I mean, we have more or less only talked about new sales, but cross sales and retention and creating advocacy amongst your existing customers is extremely important, and especially for us in the SaaS business, because I mean, You onboard the customer once, and then you're going to keep them for 10, 15 years. And that's where your revenue engine is, right? So you definitely want to grow your customer base and to be able to then keep your data in one place and have the same view of the customer is so beneficial. So I would probably have started that journey a little bit earlier. But as we talked about, you can't do everything at once. So but probably prioritize that as a natural next step.
Perfect.
And the second one was what
what could you implement tomorrow if you've been listening to this? What would be the one thing you would tell people, go do this tomorrow, you will see benefits at once? Only one thing.
That's probably it's just so different from company to company, because we have very long sales cycles. We have a typical kind of top of a product that takes a long time to understand and sell. So we need to work very long term. However, I think in whatever industry you're in, if you understand your target group, that will make a huge difference. So know your ICP and know your personas, and drill down into what is it that you can do to help them solve their problems.
Exactly.
Don't talk about yourself. Talk about how you can, help them solve their challenges.
Yeah. As you said, nobody is looking for your product and looking to buy it from someone. Everybody has a problem. And my experience is everybody has a problem, but they're kind of trying to solve things around the main problem. So if you can communicate, like, what is the main problem you're trying to solve, and not the kind of the symptoms around it, you're going to strike gold, because this is not very common for companies to do when they're communicating. Most of them, and this is both tragic and still good, because my company has a lot of work to do. I have a lot of speaking assignments and stuff. I'm talking about the same things today as I did like in 2013, 2014,
Isn't that interesting?
It is super interesting. And this comes back to us being people and humans. It's like, we want to talk about our products. We want to talk about ourselves. We want to tell everybody how awesome our products and our offerings are. But what if, like, most of the ones we're talking to they're not open to buying. They have a problem, which is in many cases the wrong one, because they don't know what the real problem is. We as vendors, as companies who are selling products and services, we know the real problem. So we need to, as you said, we need to be on brand. We need to communicate. We need to make them feel things. We need to give them examples. We need to make them understand what the real problem is. And eventually they'll understand that they need a solution. And if they know that they need a solution, they'll look for a product or a service to help them to solve that. It's really simple, and that's why it's so hard.
And I think, that's true. And I think from a vendor perspective and a sales perspective, that if you've been able to build that relationship and create that trust by helping them to actually understand the real problem, they will turn to you for the solution. Exactly.
That is so true. Perfect. Thank you so much. If people want to connect with you or Catalyst One, where can we find you?
Definitely on LinkedIn. I would love, more great connections on LinkedIn. Hope Mears Østgaard, you will find me. Not many of those out there. So I'm sure you'll find me on LinkedIn. And you can also reach out to me on email if you would like to do that. hope@catalystone.com.
Perfect.
So
yeah. And if anybody wants to talk about HubSpot or sales and marketing and business development, just Google my name. I'm all over the place after all these years I've been doing this. Structsales is the company. The Nordic Growth Podcast is this podcast hosted by myself and Structsales. And Oliver Lopez on Instagram, LinkedIn, and our website, structsales.se. Thank you, Hope. It's been a blast. Again, it's been a long time. So happy to have had the opportunity to have this discussion with you again.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Oliver.
All right. Bye-bye.